Hey guys, VaulSC here, hope that you're doing well. We finally have a bat rep involving Yoroni across the table. It's going to be 100 Kingdoms versus Yoroni, and I say across the table meaning that I have played against Yoroni on Tabletop Simulator a couple of times, but we now have Chris getting his Yoroni collection up and running in our local meta at the local LGS, and had a chance to play against him, bearing in mind that the collection's not quite at 2,000 points yet, so a few proxies from the Squires collection were involved, but it's mostly Yoroni. And we're going to be seeing a bit more of them in the near future, which is fantastic. Can't wait for them to get nerfed, but that's another story for another day. We're going to take a look at 100 Kingdoms versus Yoroni, 2,000 points. The last argument of kings, and we may as well just dive straight into the army list, shall we? So this is Chris' first outing with the Yoroni boys here, just sort of playing what he has. There's a couple of Kitsunes here, and he's going with the Spellcaster as the Warlord. You know, I kind of am partial to the Spellcaster. I quite like the idea that you can keep it back with like a light regiment and score a zone given her powerful presence. Generally speaking, the spell list isn't amazing, and most people just go with one Kitsune Bakasu as the Warlord. So he does have the other Kitsune Bakasu, just trying out both lists. I think he did play against Oyabun the game after that and had this as the Warlord, but that's what he's running. Domaru-damashi, obviously, they came out, they were terrible, they got absolutely knee-jerk reaction buffed, and they're a crazy, insanely powerful regiment right now. If only, you know, because of this Visage thing of the Tenacious 2, I mean, without that, you know, they're almost like kind of reasonable. They like have a weakness, but you can't really take advantage of them long range, except for maybe, I guess, spells. I think that maybe this regiment, I guess you could say they're weak against like fire darts and burn to cinders, etc., etc. Anyway, got the Tengu Bushis. These guys are very, very good. The flawless strikes hitting on 2s if you have like the full unit. I mean, I don't think anybody runs these guys as, you know, like one-off with other types of modular stands. I mostly see like the duos of the Tengu Bushi, but they're very, very powerful, as you guys know. And of course, the Bowbirds. These guys have always been good. They're even better now that you can basically vanguard your way onto a zone very quickly with movement 7, marching twice plus vanguard. That's just, you know, what is it, 18-inch move onto the objective turn 2, and then they're blasting you with their bows. So over here we've got the Kappa Bushis. Again, I'm not really a Yoroni expert, you know. I know that these guys are decent, but I just can't remember what all of the different synergies do. So these guys are the Ninja Turtles, and then the Oni Ayakashis are the Cleave 2 guys. Kappa Bushi, that's another Ninja Turtle, and then what have we got here? Ayakashi, so that's the sumo wrestler looking guy. They are a bit more trample oriented, I believe, with the Ayakashi. Only 2 stands in that regiment. No, sorry, there's 3 stands, excuse me. There's the Kami plus the 2 Ayakashis. I can't remember which one he put the Bakasu with, but we'll find out during the game. And Genya, no Yokai. We saw the model in person for the first time the other week. It's really, really good, you know, miniature, and he's magnetized the arms so he can use both versions of the dual kit. At the moment, this monster is not great. It's a little bit weak. Obviously, it has the ideal card thing where it gains the benefit of the ideal card and then holds onto it, but so many of the ideal cards just don't do much for it that it's not particularly amazing, and then you've simply got this, you know, 11 attacks monster with defense 3, evasion 2. It's not bad, but it's not amazing either. It's just like a reasonable monster, and you just want to play this in a way that it's not completely overcommitted to an enemy regiment front on. Try and get it into the flank or something and pick things off. Oyabun back here, Lord of the Eternal Mountain. What does that do again? Oh no, that's the Supremacy. It doesn't have that. It's got Fudoshin for more interference. Well, actually, +3 stands for scaling, rather. So it's not actually interference, it's just another kind of magical defense. Got the Oni Ayakashis, so got, it looks like 3 of them all together. That's interesting, so he's joining them. And then Origami Warriors are very, very good. They obviously have the 6 wounds, so for the cost, they're very, very good because of the durability, and the lethal demise triggering on that many wounds it's just very cost efficient, let's put it that way. On to my very humble 100 Kingdoms. Obviously, the Militia Bowmen, freshly painted. Just love this regiment so much, so always going to run these guys because I just like them. I just think they're cool. The 8 Household Guard with the Armor of Dominion. Again, I'm just going to keep running that regiment because it took me so goddamn long to assemble and paint them all. I'm not kidding. It just took forever, so I want to, try and get some returns on my investment. The brand new Crusaders, of course, I've just built them and halfway through painting them. At the time of recording this video, I have painted them. At the time of playing this game, they were only sort of base coated basically, so there's that. So running the priest with the Elation Fragment for those guys, Water Mage, and the Noble Lord with just the Caliburn. Couldn't afford the eccentric fighting style, unfortunately, but the combo of Noble Lord Men-at-Arms is a tried and tested staple of 100 Kingdoms at the moment. So we're going to be playing Bullwark. This is the one where there's 3 objectives to destroy. The middle one obviously just gives points to either player, but what you're supposed to be doing is defending one of the objectives on one of the zones which protects the zone from your opponent. So you defend that, and then the other zone you attack it, get points for killing the objective, and once the objective is gone, it unlocks scoring on that zone. So it's sort of like left punch, right hook, that kind of thing. But there's 2 points for killing the enemy warlord, and a bonus point for seizing 2 zones at once. And this is the scenario where the bonus for more zones, or the bonus for a zone, swaps to left and right, back and forward. So if you're a really clever, well-organized, well-prepared planner player, then you can take advantage of that. But generally speaking, this is always going to be a scenario where if you have a blowout attrition lead by around about turn 7, you're probably going to win, as with most games. So let's go and take a look at the game. You can see my list laid out here, all the cards that I'm playing, but in the battlefield here we've got 2 impassable bits in the center on either side of that objective, a couple of forests, and a number of hills, and then of course the objective markers are on those zones. I might just take this out of the way so you can see the right hand side. First turn, I'm auto-picking the mage and rolling for the Militia Bowmen, Crossbows, and Squires. He's bringing on his... these guys are not brute drones, they are the Origami Warriors, is what he's proxying them as. So the mage and the crossbowmen are not going to be taking on the Origami Warriors. They're just going to be camping behind this short little hill there. That's a little hill in front of them. And potentially moving up into the forest to the right to shoot at the objective on my right. Just coming back a few photos here, if I just go and look at this. So the idea here is that this zone here is the one I'm going to be trying to score from. I have to kill this objective to get points. And then on the other side, this is the one that I have to protect. And he's got to try and kill that and score from my left, just so that's clear to those of you guys following along. Turn 2, we're auto-picking the Noble Lord, of course, and all of the Household Guard, but we didn't pick up any other mediums, so failed the roll for the other Men-at-Arms and the Knights. Didn't get anything else in here. And I also failed the Squires 2 turns in a row as well, even though they're lights, so that's all we've got. Here's the battlefield. Origami Warriors going on my left and the mage going on the mid to the right section down the bottom. So here we have the wonderful bowbirds with the spellcasting Kitsune, and these guys, look at that model, by the way. He's done such a great job 3D printing that little Japanese, decoration at the back there. Looks brilliant, but what's even more brilliant, of course, is the vanguard that the bowbirds have. So they move 7, they vanguard 4. They're straight onto the objective. Fortunately, or unfortunately, I should say, actually, that's got a objective marker on it which belongs to him. So he gets to score straight away unless I get up to that zone. So very good tactic here from the Yoroni player. So knowing that I need to deal with that ASAP, we're bringing in the mob, the massive, it's a large house that he runs, this particular Noble Lord, because he's got all of those boys there, and these are nearby to the bowmen. Hopefully within range of the mage for her healing as well. So they're looking great as always, and then to back up the first Kitsune, we're bringing in the second Kitsune, and sorry, I'm just going to have to refer back to what actually he has there. So I think this is the Kami Ayakashi and 2 Oni Ayakashis. Yeah, that looks right. Okay. It might be the other way around, but anyway, that's the regiment that he's got. Looks like the 2 Kamis and 1 Oni. I'm going to get the words wrong inevitably, but you guys know what's going on. So a bit more of a close-up. He's slowly painting them one at a time. I'm very much looking forward to photographing these guys and putting them into Tabletop Simulator. I know some of you guys are also pretty keen on that because we're expanding our collection online. And then here's the Oyabun, and these Incarnate Sentinels are representing 3 Oni Ayakashis. Okay. So they get +1 attacks and Juggernaut. That's pretty nice. And obviously the Oyabun probably shreds. He's got 6 attacks, Clash 3, Cleave 1. Yep, pretty decent. Impact hits, Quicksilver, Powerful Presence. It's got all this nice stuff. So this is the danger unit. I just really want to avoid this thing wiping the floor with me. Now, interestingly, he's moving his Domarus, who are slightly faster, and they're overtaking that first regiment, the Powerhouse Regiment. I don't mind that because it gives him a bit of a screen. It allows him to control when and where he makes contact with the big fat unit. Although, having said that, you don't want to traffic jamming yourself too much. If your opponent just engages the Domaru and just sits fighting them for a while, you may be missing out on some more value from your biggest, punchiest unit back there. So that's how the board looks at the end of turn 2. As you can see, I'm fully investing on the right-hand flank. Nothing's on the left-hand flank at all. My opponent is welcome to go and kill the objective on the left with his Origami guys. In the middle, he's welcome to come through and hit the objective in the middle. All I really want to do is try and get the upper hand on the right-hand side. We'll worry about the rest later. So with that in mind, we're just doing all the character activations first, and then the Archangel's going to be coming on pretty late in the turn, with pretty much everything else coming on the board, apart from possibly the Knights. I can't quite remember if they made it into the cards, but I guess we're about to find out from the photo gallery. So we have the Mage activating here, just popping on something like Call Fog or something defensive. And then we've got the Archers. They are there to just sit on the edge of the zone, to be honest. I believe this is the character activating more so than the birds, because the great thing about Yoroni, like yet another good thing about them, is that they have that real fluidity and flexibility with their activation order, where you can activate anything with any card at any time. And even though it benefits you to pick the right card for the right regiment, you don't get that much help from matching the right card up to the right regiment type. What really helps Yoroni is the ability to just activate exactly the right thing at any given time, which is so helpful because it means you're not getting locked into a situation where, your opponent activates Regiment A and you respond with Regiment A that's fighting Regiment A, or respond with Regiment X that's fighting Regiment A, then your opponent activates Regiment B and kills Unit Y. You sort of avoid that kind of activation loss. Anyway, over here, the Origami War is just going straight for this objective, as we talked about, and the Militia Bowmen moving up to get a few pot shots at that objective. This is a fantastic role for Militia Bowmen because they're likely to get wounds on an objective over time, and they're just the cheapest chips investment that you can possibly make in any regiment. Unfortunately, these guys just volley one, absolutely pathetic, and they don't actually put a wound on the objective, so I guess that is one small drawback of taking them. So we have the men-at-arms with the character here. I note that I've put 5 of them on the board, so I must have got my list wrong. I think what I actually was doing on the day was I was going with 5 men-at-arms, and the Noble Lord probably had eccentric fighting style. I think that would account for the missing stand of men-at-arms. So that's probably what I was running. I'm doing all this from recollection. But the idea is that once the mage gets inevitably wiped by the Domaru, I can counterpunch with these guys and at least have some board presence in the middle of the table. By the way, the other thing is that I may be deploying an Archangel nearby, which will be able to give that global sort of that bubble really of divine purpose to a lot of nearby stuff. Here we have the Swordbirds, as I like to call them. These guys are also going on the left-hand side of the board from my perspective, and they are also vanguarding onto the zone, but they've got to kill my objective first. So this is a situation I'm totally fine with. I'm happy for him to deploy these 2 regiments here. Again, I'm going to try and win on attrition late game, and to do that, I just want to get the upper hand on one part of the board, and the strategy is that for the other part of the board that I'm likely to lose, I can be in control of which regiments I feed into that side of the table. So there they are there. By the way, the first photo was taken. He didn't like that position. Took another photo of them over here touching the forest. So then we have the mounted squires finally showing up. This is turn 3, and they're coming right in behind the bowmen, and we're just waiting for an opportunity to get divine purpose on them, and then they can move out and just tie something up or get in the way in combat later on. We then have the Crusaders. Again, these guys, I'd got some base coats on them at the time of the game. If you check social media, you'll see some completed photos of them soon. Really love the sculpts here of this regiment. I believe that Parabellum absolutely knocked it out of the park with these guys with their medieval style flails and maces. This is exactly what I want out of 100 Kingdoms, and I just live for those sculpts. The actual rules for Crusaders right now, I don't particularly like them. I don't really rate this unit very highly. If I was playing an absolutely optimal 100 Kingdoms list for a tournament, I think that it would be Noble Lord, Feudal, and Imperial Officer, and it would be mostly stuff like Household Guard, Men-at-Arms, maybe some Knights in there, and Hunter Cadre. That's mostly what I'd run with 100 Kingdoms at the moment, not so much the Crusaders. Here's a front look at them though. Again, the lighting's not great, but I will be taking some more glamorous photos of them, which you're welcome to check out. So we have the Domarus over here, taking a little bit of damage from the crossbows, but again, they've got that tenacious 2 against shooting, so there's just so little that I'm able to do against them. So they're marching in forward here, and that's going to mean that next turn I'm going to get wiped by these guys unless I get the Militia Bowmen in the way, for example. We've then got the Household Knights on the left. I'm just putting them here because given that he's only deployed those 2 regiments so far, I will win on this flank if it is literally just the Crusaders and Knights versus Origami Warriors and the Tengu Bushi. Am I using the right term there? Is it the Tengu Bushi? Tengu Ayakashi? No, those are the Bowbirds. It is the Tengu Bushi. I did get the name right. So you can see that there. So by setting this up now, rather than committing to the right-hand side at this point, it kind of forces him to bring another regiment on to this side to try and beat me, which is going to mean that I'm most likely going to win on the right-hand flank. And if I can see that I'm going to lose on this side, I can pull these regiments back a bit, wait for the right-hand side to catch up, and hopefully control the positioning really, really well that way. So he sees that and brings on his big, monstrous giant. This is opposite the Knights. It is very fast, and it's just going to speed around the forest. But it's going to be hitting the Knights in the front. Now, is that a good idea? On paper, yes. Genya no Yokai cleave 3, which is going to hurt those Knights. But if the Knights get to attack him first, then they're going to be punching through that 1 point of defense, taking him down to evasion 2. And if they get the impacts plus the clash, he's going to be taking a fair bit of damage. And I don't know if they can get through 18 wounds that quickly. But the Crusaders could definitely finish him off. And if the Crusaders go in there with Blessed, they will probably damage him pretty badly. We'll see. Okay, speaking of monsters, we've got the Archangel. As you guys know, I prefer to use my own proxy for the Archangel, featuring this little knight character here on the hill, directing his Sakurai into battle. That is the Archangel, and we're coming up the right-hand flank. I was originally going to position the Archangel here. We can see a nice Archangel-sized gap right in the middle of my army where it can actually put the bubble of +2 speed on everything around it. But I like this slot here because it prevents my Household Guard from getting flanked, and the Archangel itself can't easily be flanked. And if I double-team this regiment with Household Guard and the Archangel, I do very well, and it ensures that the Household Guard get the benefit. And realistically, the Household Guard are the only regiment that I'm going to be wanting to put the regeneration on from the Archangel. So this is how we've decided to do it. Over here, my opponent, realizing he's mispositioned his Oyabun's regiment. Am I saying that name right? Oyabun. So he didn't bring them into quite the correct place, so he's sort of reforming them a bit and hanging out behind the Domaru. And this is the drawback of traffic jamming your regiments. You've got to be very careful when you're putting one regiment behind another in this game in your first, opening turns, because you can get to a point where these guys aren't going to see action until like turn 5, turn 6, where it might be a little bit too late. If you've invested the points in a big, smacky, hitty unit like that, you want them barreling down directly towards the biggest regiment your opponent has without anything in the way and try to just butt heads, but that's not happening here. What is happening over is we've got the crossbows shooting at the Domaru again. I don't really have anywhere to run with these guys, so I was just kind of hoping we could get in the way with something else, but as it stands, I've also traffic jammed myself, so we've both made that blunder, and the crossbows just don't have anywhere to retreat to. So on this side, this is a march, then a charge, so we're not attacking the brutes this turn, but you can see we're setting up a very important showdown where whoever gets the supremacy next turn is going to be laughing all the way to the bank. If it's me, obviously I've got the Noble Lord and I've got all of those halberds there, and it's likely to be the Theist Priest Supremacy next turn for Blessed. So you think about how many attacks it is. I mean, the Household Guard are going to be putting out 9 from the front, plus another 18 from the back. That's 27 attacks. Almost all of them are going to hit, and he's going to take that many Cleaver ones. Obviously, these guys have tons of wounds. I think that the reason you take them is because, if I recall correctly, they are wounds 7. Is that true? They are wounds 7. Unbelievable. Overbuffed Parabellum. So he will tank a lot of damage there, but I will do a lot of damage. However, if he wins the roll, these guys will slam me pretty hard. Now, I do have Armor of Dominion, and I will have Blessed for the rerolls on 3s. And it's a big regiment. They can be healed. So it won't be the end of the world, but I'd prefer to win Supremacy rather than lose it. So here's the end of turn 3. The Archangel is going to be able to skip into the little gap there. So let's just get out the pen and show you that that is now possible thanks to the positioning of the Archangel, which is really nice. And even if this regiment, this stand there dies, he can just pick off this little corner here, which is partly why I've done this. It allows me to get the Archangel into combat without exposing its frontage to a lot of damage. Over the left-hand side, you can see I've just played it cagey. I've just played an oblique formation here where I'm not really engaging anything with these regiments, allowing me to just punch through that right-hand side, completely win on the right-hand flank, and then collapse on the center without having to overcome anything else on the left. That is the way to go. All right, so as you can see, first card in the stack is going to be that Household Guard regiment. The last card in the stack is going to be the Knights, because I'm expecting him to come at me with that monster, and I kind of want to zone him out. I want to be able to have a clash or a charge on that monster if it comes too close. I don't want to activate the Knights and give them nothing to do, and then the monster comes through, and then next turn he just chomps me with his Clave 3. So that's the thinking. Everything else in between. We've got the Crusaders second to last, mind you, just in case those Origami warriors come a bit closer. Okay, so taking this photo to indicate to you that we've decided to pop the Supremacy here on the Theist Priest. Lovely colors in this photograph. By the way, can you guys notice on the Crusaders here, see how they've got that little powdery texture on the model? And that's because something went wrong with my spray can that I bought from like a hardware store where it's kind of a bit powdery, might not have shaken it up too much. I kind of like it. I mean, in some ways it just doesn't look right. It just sort of looks like a mistake, but it gives it a really gritty, weird texture, which, doesn't seem that unrealistic. Like if you're an actual, middle-aged style fantasy regiment, you might have a lot of gunk and stuff, or a lot of texture on your fabric or whatever on the miniature. Just let me know what you guys think. If you find it really unattractive, I might need to swap the spray can out, but obviously I will... We'll shake it a bit better next time, but I actually think it looks good. So over here, my opponent does win the roll. So we have the Yoroni bashing down on the Household Guard, killing quite a few boys. I think he removed like 2.5 stands worth of guys, which is as to be expected, but I took the brunt of that with Blessed from the Theist Priest and Armor of Dominions in there as well. So I'm feeling fine, to be honest. He's had his swing, and then when we counterattack, I'm killing a couple of stands in return. Not as many of attacks, and we've used Blessed on the defense rather than the offense, but I still have the reroll 6s from the Supremacy of the Noble Lord. So the combat continues. Then we have the Domaru charging the boys here, the mage and the crossbows, and of course they absolutely shred the crossbows because they do that, the Domarus. So that is 1 mage and 1 unit crossbows down the drain, and I'll never be able to heal the Household Guard, except Except that Archangel has the regen. Don't forget about that, and that's why you take the spear. Well, actually, the reason you take the spear is because you have a shield as well, +1 defense. That's the real reason, but don't be forgetting about the regen. All right, where are we? The Militia Bowmen, favorite regiment in the game, move forward. They attempt to shoot at the objective and still don't do any damage to it because they're terrible. Note that there are a few little blue beads next to the stand indicating that they've taken 3 wounds from the bowbird shooting, but they haven't lost a stand yet. Then we have the aforementioned bowbirds, and these guys are shooting at close range at the Household Guard, doing even more damage to them, but don't forget that I do have Armor of Dominion to ignore Armor Piercing, and I believe, if I recall correctly, the reroll 6s does work here as well, so not quite as much damage as the Yoroni player would want to wish for here. After that happens, we have the Squires making use of their Blessed and their +2 speed from the Theus Priest spell to march charge these people here, the bowbirds that were attacking the Household Guard. There's just barely enough room between the objective marker here and this regiment, but they get in there, and that's going to be able to tie up the bowbirds for a little bit. The character and the bowbirds are not designed for close combat, so they won't automatically wipe out the Squires. And the thing is, once they eventually do some damage, I'll remove this stand first. Let's use a red one. This stand first, and that's going to allow the Household Guards to get into the regiment there for combat a little bit later. All right, so that's the photo of them getting there. Can't get over that Kitsune. It looks amazing with all of that Japanese architecture decoration there. Really amazing model. Over here, we have the men-at-arms backing up the mage, countercharging into combat, of course, with Caliburn and probably eccentric fighting style, and Blessed, because it's the Theus Priest supremacy turn. So these guys absolutely blow up the Domaru. Not a perfect trade for me. I mean, the mage and the crossbows collectively were slightly more valuable than Domaru, but it is what it is. It's not like an absolute total loss here. At least I'm getting something in return. All right, so the giant now moving through. This is the first move, and with the second activation, it charges the knights. What can it do offensively on the charge? Well, it's impact 7, but no brutal impact, and it's clash 3. So you're going to get 3 or 4 hits. The knights are going to save most of those. The terrifying one's nice, but in this case, it doesn't actually kill the knights. Does maybe a little bit of damage to one stand, or maybe nothing. Can't quite remember. And there it is. And because I'm activating the knights last, or close to last, they are going to get a full round of attacks onto that monster, and then if they activate before the monster next turn, they might even be able to kill him if they're really lucky. Over here, now this is the sword birds, the Tengu Bushi, and they are charging the objective, and they're medium. They can only do 1 wound to it per turn. I don't know if they've got impact hits, but if they do, they were in the forest anyway, so that wasn't really going to matter. Tengu Bushi, they have impact 2, yeah, so that wasn't really going to do anything. Now this is a mistake strategically, so forget about game balance or anything. This is a mistake from Yoroni, in my opinion, because there are so many other fights going on around the battlefield, and you can't afford to spend, the next 3 turns just fighting an objective with a very powerful regiment that's usually quite worth it. What this regiment needs to be doing is backing up your monster against the knights, because I've got the flawless strike sitting on 1s or 2s. They're going to be excellent against the knights. They could free up that monster, and then you've got a situation where it's the Origami warriors plus the Tengu plus the monster against 1 unit of Crusaders. That allows you to win this flank. You can go back for the objective later. Obviously, the monster is much better at killing the objective because it's a heavy regiment. Is it a heavy regiment though? Is it? It is heavy, so that means the impacts and the clash can one-round it, because it can do 2 per action. So that'd be a better way of doing it, but we've gone with this instead. Over here, the Archangel has gone for a charge clash so it can get into the side of this regiment here and do a bit of damage to them. They've got 7 friggin' wounds each, so it doesn't actually kill them, but that will allow the Household Guard to get a regen at some point. So that is in the side there, and then obviously, again, attacking the objective with a really powerful unit instead of getting involved in the battle. This is creating a situation where I'm going to sort of win a few fights in the mid game, and then when we get to the late game, I'm just going to have more stuff. So again, newer players, I definitely recommend just being a bit more proactive with your big strong units. If you're going to kill an objective in the mid game, just set aside a really puny light regiment with, say, like a few bows and arrows to do the objective shooting. I think that's a better way of handling that. So over here, we now have the Crusaders in a position where the priest has used the Elysian Fragment, and I haven't entouraged into the Crusaders. So what that's telling my opponent is that if he doesn't do anything, my last activation with the Crusaders is going to charge directly into the flank of that giant and wipe it out, because they will do that with the Blessed, and then it's going to be the Knights and the Crusaders against the Origami Warriors. And of course the Bowbirds, like we just talked about, are stuck fighting that objective, so they're going to be out of the game for 3 turns, which is going to mean that this unit and this unit is going to kill the Origami Warriors, allowing me to win the left-hand flank. And I'm likely to pick up the right-hand flank as well. So what he does here is he moves in with the Origamis to block me from charging the giant. So he's going to get in the way. So that leaves me with no other choice but to charge the Origami Warriors, of course, with the Priest and Elysian Fragment, and with Blessed, and all those attacks, and Veteran, and they absolutely clobber the Origami Warriors, as you can expect. I do take some return damage from Lethal Demise, alright, but no, they're pretty hardy, defense 3, so we move on. There's the other view of the attack. Just got to pretend those brute drones are Origamis. Over here, the Knights actually get to attack, and they do a lot of wounds on that giant. The dice rolls swing my way for this particular activation, and the Knights at the end of this turn really put out a ton of damage onto that monster. And then his last regiment to arrive on the battlefield, seeing an opportunity. We've got 2 Ninja Turtles plus 1 Oni, I believe that guy is, and they double march towards this Archangel here, so they'll be able to hit it in the flank, which is a powerful play, but they may be a little bit too late. After the Archangel goes down and both Kitsunes go down, it's going to be 5 Household Guards, Noble Lord, plus, maybe a Squire or 2, and some Militia Bowmen against 1 more regiment, and then I'll have the right-hand flank done. Great miniatures, though. Obviously, they look even better once they're painted, and they look better once my photography is done with a bit more preparation, but it is what it is. Alrighty, so let's look at the board. Let's look at it. So on the right-hand flank, I've got my Archangel here. We're about to finish off this Kitsune here, and this one, obviously, in a little while. But he's going to flank charge my Archangel. Archangel will wipe that out, which will leave this regiment here against this regiment here. But I'm confident that with the help of the other stuff that I've got around here, I should be able to beat that regiment eventually. In the middle, he's got his big unit of guys with the Oyabun, and they will probably be able to defeat the men-at-arms, but I've also got the Crusaders, and these Bowbirds over here are locked in combat with an objective. The Knight versus the Knights versus the Giant, that could go either way. The Giant's taken a ton of damage already, so the game is still pretty close, but I like my position. I'm kind of happy with how it's looking for me. So we're going to go with the Archangel first. The reason for that is because we want to get a bit of damage done before it gets hit by that oncoming regiment. Then we're going to go with the Knights to hopefully take down the Giant before it gets a chance to activate. Then we're going into the Priest and the Crusaders, etc. And then we're going to end with the Men-at-Arms because they are out of range of the Oyabun's regiment at the moment, so we're going to bring them in a bit later. And notice the sneaky Militia Bowmen right before the Men-at-Arms. Watch for that unit. They're going to get in the way. They're going to be proving that they're worth gold. So again, this regiment just sitting here, and then this regiment is going to be able to charge the Archangel. These guys do their darndest to beat this Archangel up, and they do their impacts, and they do their swings. They're getting in on the sides. The Archangel doesn't have a shield, and fate would have it, the Archangel survives on like 2 wounds. So there you have it. 5, 5, 5 is 15, plus 3 is 18. How many wounds does it normally have? It has 18. I remember it surviving. I think that they may have got to it the following turn. I can't quite remember, but it did get an attack off before they killed it. Sorry, the game's been like a couple of weeks ago, so I'm having trouble remembering. Yes, it may have been the case that it managed to do some damage and then died with exactly enough damage, but either way, game moves on. There's another look at the beautiful miniature, and we'll just talk about some other stuff. So over here, the Household Guard are obviously able to... well, actually, they're in the process of getting hit by his regiment, so the Kitsune is still alive, and it's still doing more damage, unfortunately. Now, over here, quite critically, the Knights activate before the Giant does, and they have another good round of close combat luck, and they manage to take it down before it makes a single swing. So the Knights have been absolute heroes this game, taken out the Giant, and down it goes. By the way, I should mention that last turn, I think that was the Supremacy turn for the Priests, so they may have had Blessed on their attacks. But anyway, over here, we have still got the Kitsune and the Bowbirds against the Squires. Both regiments are pretty pathetic in close combat, so nothing much continuing, but it is yielding a great batch of photographs for me. Over here, the Priest. Now, the Crusaders and the Priest are able to move up, and that zone is being protected by my objective marker. We still have both of those Swordbirds there, but now the Priest can start whacking them with Holy Fire spells. The rolling for the spell not going particularly well, but you can see the problem here. I'm going to be able to eliminate these birds without any trouble, and these guys are going to be able to score for the rest of the game unless his central regiment with the Oyabun does something about it. So there's another photo showing off the lovely sculpts of the Crusaders. All right, over here we are reduced to just one Squire left. He has rallied, he's carrying the flag, and he's still plugging away. Over here we have the Household Guard. You can see in the distance that the Archangel has been destroyed, and the Archangel gone. These Household Guards now attack the Kitsune. With 100 Kingdoms, the rules are such that if you have at least 5 stands, then you get Inspire automatically. You don't actually have to activate for it. So they clash first, and then they can charge directly into the other regiment behind them. So there's a photo of them attacking, and there's a photo of them charging into the Bowbirds. And as you can see, they're going to be relieving the Squire. They're going to be bringing up... Well, the cavalry has arrived, ironically, helping out the cavalry. Anyway... Over here, Bowbirds just trying to kill the objective. They eventually manage to do that, and they are able to walk away. Another beautiful photo of the Noble Lord. I issued a challenge to his Kitsune, which was hilarious because he accepted it. The Kitsune Onmyoji has 5 attacks, clash 2, and because I felt like with the Warlord dying on his side, that could be worth some points preemptively, and because my guy has Armor of Dominion without having to use eccentric fighting style, which is actually a detriment, by the way, decided to go for it. We did a little bit of damage to each other. Nothing else really happened. Nobody died. So finally, we have the objective in the middle destroyed. We've got the Oyabun and his big boys reforming, and you can sort of really feel... even more than you can see the disadvantage that this puts you in when you're the Yoroni player here, because putting aside the Armulus and the Gamelets and what have you, having like one of your absolute strongest regiments do nothing on turn 5 and the rest of your army is just getting picked off just feels bad, because now you're having to contend with a priest with the Crusaders as well as the Noble Lord and the Men-at-Arms from both sides. So you're eventually going to lose that fight, and the Knights are now free to go after the Bowbirds. It's not a great look. So the militia sneaking up with the first activation, so they move with their first action, and then coming from the trees, unannounced, the stealth snipers charging the flank of the Oyabun. And you can see how brilliant it is to have a unit of unit of militia bowmen in this particular situation. They're just so cheap, and it's just so filthy when you get an annoying charge off like this after your opponent's activated, because now he's just stuck in that position for another turn, allowing me to come in there. So next, the Men-at-Arms move in. In the following turn, I'm going to out-activate him. If he attacks the militia, then of course the Men-at-Arms charge in. But if he doesn't do anything, then the militia are going to activate second to last. I'm going to withdraw. They die. The Men-at-Arms charge in. I can Caliburn him. Looking good. So that's what's going to be happening. First activation is the Household Guard. Last activation is the Men-at-Arms. But the second to last activation, that's going to be the Militia Bowmen. You can't really see them very easily there, but that's who they are. So the overview photograph, we are about to finish off the Kitsune and the Bowbirds there with the Halberdiers, and he's just got this one guy here which has been pummeled by the Archangel. And, sorry, my thing's in the way. Let me get that out of the way. All right, so down here, this guy is broken. I believe he gets an auto rally with the Yoroni rules, but either way, if I attack with the Noble Lord, I can wipe out the Kitsune and then I can turn around to face this guy. I've still got the zone, but the objective belongs to my opponent, so I have to wipe that out eventually. And of course, you've got the beautiful bowman there tying up this regiment in the center, and I'll be able to box him in with the men-at-arms of the Crusaders, and I've even got the knights there to go after his bowbird. So the game is pretty much done at this point. There you have it. The Noble Lord goes first. He is able to activate and wipe out the Kitsune and then reform there to face off against the Ninja Turtle guy. Then after that, you've got the Crusaders moving up to basically march charge the flank of these bowbirds. No, the bowbirds are activating, killing the objective, and then they're moving away into the forest is what's happening. So you have the priest march charging the flank of the bowbirds so they can't get away, and of course I'm on the objective, so I'll be scoring that. The Ninja Turtle charging into the Noble Lord. What bravery. Look at him go there by himself, wagging his little alligator tail. And the Squire simply turns around, charges the enemy objective, stabs it with his Impact 2, eventually trying to get a wound off it. Over here we have the Militia Bowmen just withdrawing or getting killed or whatever, so they don't really last very long. But then, of course, after these guys here activate, we've got the Noble Lord charging in, swinging his Caliburn sword, and doing a bunch of damage there. We've even got the knights redirecting towards the middle of the table so that they can go after the Oyabun's regiment off in the distance. Men-at-Arms, and not much more left to say there. I think there was a bit of a duel here. Not so much an actual duel, but like a bit of a brawl for that lasted a turn or two, and probably a glamour photo of my custom assembled kit bashed Noble Lord. And that brings us to pretty much the last turn, but there's not much really left to do. I've pretty much got both flanks, and my opponent really only has that regiment left in the center. So with the Crusaders finishing off the bowbirds there, and the men-at-arms going after these guys in the center, and the turtle about to go down the toilet. This will be the last photo here between the Crusaders and the bowbirds. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. It's been fun seeing Yoroni on the board, and we're going to have some more photos of these guys as they start to get a bit more painted up and a little bit more assembled and more stuff added to the army list, and hopefully some nerfs too. This game is not really very indicative of the power level of Yoroni. It's my opponent's first go at them, and he made some mistakes this game that had nothing to do with the stats and the army lists. But Yoroni are considered to be right up there in the S tier along with Sorcerer Kings at the moment. They are a little bit too powerful for a few other reasons, but we're not going to go too far into that. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll see you in the next one.